Billy West.
Hey.
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for joining me this morning. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk to me.
Oh, no problem.
Now, if you've heard anything or seen anything related to animation whatsoever, you know Billy West's voice. I mean, you've done Stimpy, then you started doing Ren, Doug, Porkchop, Roger Klotz on, of course, Doug. Basically half the show on Futurama. The Red M&M. I mean, I could spend the rest of the morning talking about all of the things on your resume, but man, as somebody who does voice work and as somebody who grew up with so many of the characters you do, I got to say, it's an absolute pleasure to talk to you this morning.
Oh, thank you very much. Likewise.
Now, I have to ask, it's kind of an interesting process that I don't think people put too much thought into, but how do you kind of devise the voice for each character? Because not only do you have to have the talent to do a voice, but you kind of have to have that creative instinct to create a voice that matches the character, right?
You do, but it's the character isn't fully developed until you give it a voice, so it's kind of like the ball's in your court at that point. The animators, the directors, the writers, the producers all got together, and they came up with this character, and they tell you a little bit about the character and what they like and what they don't like and what their history is, and just so you can have stuff to work off of.
So you've got a little bit of a framework to work within then?
Yes, you do. Building that vehicle that you can hop in and zip it up and disappear.
Now, do you feel like you have a little bit of ownership then of those characters? Do you feel a little bit more connected to them rather than somebody saying like, hey, I want it to sound like this or I want it to sound like that? Like, you've done a lot of characters, you've taken over for recent versions of, Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny and Shaggy and Woody Woodpecker. Do you feel a little bit closer to the ones that you kind of helped give voice to?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, because the other voices, like the classic characters of all time in cartoons, I've had a chance to do a lot of them, but it was something that someone else did, and no one can top that for real. I mean, people can come real super close, but Mel Blanc was one of my heroes. But the thing about the voices is that Mel Blanc was not just a collection of witty little voices. He was a hell of an actor. Yeah, and each character acted like beautifully and crazy. I know that all he wanted to do was make them real. It's not like he wanted, propriety over anything. And
right, yeah, you kind of that comes through. Like you can see people who do that and take it the approach of, hey, I'm acting, I'm giving life to this thing rather than I'm just a voice here.
Yes, and you're offering up something to hopefully millions of people. You never know what you're doing when you're in the middle of it. If it's going to be a cultural phenomenon or if it's going to be gone after one season, you never know.
Right.
Until it gets out there, but they showed me pictures of Fry, and he had that rebel without a cause look,
Yep.
But he was a paper tiger, They basically told me, it's like he means well.
He's a good dude that you got to give a little bit of heart to the character, right?
Yes, and I try to make every character as something about it that everybody can grab onto or relate to in some way. Kind of making them real rather than cartoons. Fry was my own voice when I was 25,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Everything just tastes purple for a second.
I love how you just can switch it on. Like, I'm sure just on a moment's notice, you can go into any one of the characters you've done, right?
Yes, you're damn right. Now get me something to eat. You need an autograph? Why not Zoidberg? Bad news. Yeah, but let them in. I've made it with a woman. Yeah, I can pop in and out of them.
That's awesome. Is that what people can expect from your podcast? Because that's what you're doing now. You can find it at BillyWestPodcast.com, right?
Yes, it is.
And at Billy West Pod on Twitter, at the Billy West. Tell us about that.
I've gotten requests over the years to do a podcast, and it's a forum, where you can listen to all these different personalities, all these characters. There's barely time for me on my own show because it's so disruptive. There's so many people that just disrupt everything, and
it's your fault for being as good at what you do as you are. That's your fault.
Well, you know what? These aren't cartoons to me. These are real.
Yeah.
These guys. But there's call-in segments like Jai Raj, the world's foremost inspirational consultant and BS artist. He's known internationally for his insight into all things meaningful. And I have reoccurring segments like a tip of the hat to old radio, the Detroit Home Companion, hosted by Lumpy Keeloig and his in-house band, Floyd Smoot and the All Day Hangovers. It's kind of folksy and old-timing, but it's pretty silly. I couldn't be dirty. I didn't want to talk about religion, and I didn't want to talk about politics. I just wanted to be totally silly.
I love that.
Then there's this character, Billy Bastard, amateur human being, who's in the Detroit Home Companion, and it's starring Billy Bastard and his friend Miguel, and they run into a genetically modified 200-ton cow. There's stuff like that. That's what radio was good for. As well as I do. It's like you could sit there and go, I have a giant pink bunny rabbit hat on right now, and I'm naked.
And as far as anyone knows.
People have to believe it in a way,
Yeah, and that's interesting. Is that a big source of inspiration for you? Because I can see that. Like, I can see, things like Firesign Theater and even going as far back as, like, even, like, Fibber McGee and Molly and George and Gracie, like, that sort of thing.
Well, you know your stuff, man. How do you know all that stuff?
I'm a nerd. That's how I know that stuff.
Well, maybe you were born 40.
Yeah, that's pretty much my excuse for everything. I was born in the 80s, but I think I was actually born 45 years old in the 80s. So, I believe it.
I was like that. I was a freak. I was always Touretting out voices and making noises, and I wouldn't stop it, and everybody was going crazy. They'd say, will you shut up? Can you just not do that? And
it's another thing we have in common. I hear that. I still actually hear that to this day, in fact.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, here, please, could you just shut up and stop doing that? That's actually, I'm starting to think that might be my name at this point.
So what do? You marry a deaf girl?
I'm still trying to figure that
marriage.
out. She might end up deaf by the end of it after I'm done yapping in her ear as much as I do.
Yeah, but it's good natured and it's fun. It's not like you're a lunatic and you have screwed up brainwaves. It's just you're just blowing off steam in the best way you know how. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I always looked at, and your entire profession is something, and again, I do some voice work myself, mostly commercial stuff, not animation, but to me, I've always looked at what you do and what people in radio did growing up, and it was so inspirational to me because it's like an opportunity to go, hey, I can take what other people find weird about me, and I can find a way to actually make that what I do.
Yes. Well, it might be cool to be a nerd now, but it wasn't 50 years ago, let me tell you.
Right.
They would circle the wagons if you were sensitive or there was something different about you or you were artistic. They would chase you home. Like, it'd be like a witch hunt.
Just finding find the dork. Yeah.
But I didn't understand it because I had comic books, and I heard there was a kid across town that had comic books, and I somehow found my way to his house. I didn't even know where he lived. Mm-hmm. I was like a homing pigeon, and we sat and traded comic books and everything. There was nothing better in the world than doing that stuff and just reading them and talking about how cool they were.
I feel that kind of makes it better, though. I feel like when you've got, when you're not a part of what is kind of, I don't want to say mainstream, but what's kind of popular, and you've got what you like, and then you find other people, that thing is kind of more meaningful to you, I think. And then you have something fundamentally that you're relating to somebody else with.
Yes, that's true. You need to share stuff. You don't want to feel totally disenfranchised. That's why I can't believe the costume and the Comic-Cons and all that stuff. But God, if there was an outlet like that for me, years and years ago, I would have just picked up and joined the circus. I wouldn't have bothered to go to school.
See, I was born 40 years too late. You were born 40 years too early, right? If you had been growing up in the time when it was cool to dress up like Aquaman and go to the Javits Center in New York or go in San Diego, right, you would have been the king of all of that.
No, I had to have lived the life that I've lived.
Right, that's true,
too. Be king of that.
So one quick question before I know you've got a lot to get to, and I've already taken up so much of your time.
No, it's great. It's great chatting with you.
What advice do you have for somebody who is trying to get into voice work, whether it's for animation or create their own thing? Is there anything that you've found that worked for you?
Don't be delusional. If you just think you want to do it because it's cool, you might have a rougher time than you think. it's not suited for every single person. I encourage it because, the business needs you. Show business just expands. It doesn't contract. It just gets bigger and bigger, and everything is about media today.
Oh, absolutely.
If you're in college, get out, yesterday. No, because there's nothing out there for you.
Yeah, you got to find your way, and if that's what you're kind of passionate about, and especially if it's a creative thing, you find so much more fulfillment from doing what kind of comes out of you than sitting down and following orders from somebody.
Well, you touched on the right word there, passion. It's all about passion, and it's all about inspiration, and those are the two things that will kind of propel you forward. I have just as much love of the craft and the whole business itself. It's just like I just started. Like my heart would be pounding. I'd be getting nervous.
Yeah.
But it means you're alive and you're healthy.
Yeah, no, it's a good feeling. It's invigorating, and it kind of gives you a sense of purpose. I know that there's going to be a producer in your ear in a second, if not already, telling you to get on to the next call. I wish I could talk to you more, and I could talk to you all morning about this.
We'll chat more.
That would love to. That sounds great. It's been absolutely an honor talking to you, Billy. The Billy West Podcast, and you can get in touch. All of that online, of course. You can download it, subscribe to it, BillyWestPodcast.com, at the Billy West, at Billy West Pod on Twitter. Thank you so much, Billy. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, man.
You take care.
Bye-bye.